Have you ever wondered why?
What's that noise? Who's under my bed?
Well, then you're in luck.
Because you're listening to the Hypotheticast.
3 best buds.
On a mission to ask all the questions.
And get all the answers.
Blazing, and I do think I'm amazing. You got the dignity to feel a little about yourself. I don't care what your preacher says. I got my own vicious ways. Only got one commandment, and it goes: I'm killing it. I'm killing it.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to the Hypotheticast.
My name's David.
My name is Mike.
And I'm Emily.
And we're here again.
Yet again, we're going to record an episode, and it has a theme, and the theme is...
Horror movies.
Horror movies.
Horror. You have to really pronounce that.
I know, I tried to say
syllable.
it fast. It's a hard word to say fast.
It is. Horror movies, which we all love, right?
True. Right?
I do.
Just checking. I do. I really
What a
do.
fun time to say, no, I really don't.
That'd be
I'm not
awkward.
into it.
So we were going to talk about formative horror movie experiences.
Yeah, we have them. Everyone has them. Many people have a I was exposed to this movie too early sort of horror movie experience, which is classic. I have my family checked out a movie from Blockbuster and I wasn't ready, but I thought I was ready experience. I cannot for the life of me remember what this movie is called. And I didn't watch
this is my
75% of it because I was so scared.
Oh.
I will tell you, Mike.
This is my secret power.
Find my movie for me.
Okay.
So it's a movie that featured a family driving on a road trip. So far, any horror movie. There was a bird involved that kept flying over them. And they got to a house at one point.
Okay.
There was some human skin that was flayed along the wall and like pinned up.
Okay.
Kind of like how people like dry out a raccoon or something when they skin it, but it was a person. And they were walking through this house and they found that human skin.
Okay.
And that is literally what I remember because the rest of the movie, I had my eye closed and was half covering myself with the blanket. But then when my mom would ask me if I was too scared, I would say, no, I can see through the blanket. I like it. Because I was too afraid to be like, I don't like this movie. I want you to turn it off. I was terrified, but I couldn't admit it.
How old were you?
Maybe 11. That age where, I don't know. But I have so few details about it.
Yeah.
It felt like a movie from the 90s.
It couldn't have been a really scary movie for your mom to show you when you
No,
were 11.
I think it was mostly a suspenseful,
I'm very
thriller
curious.
kind of movie.
The fact that your parents rented it and showed it on family movie night is the most mysterious part of this. I'll do some research.
Okay.
There is having worked at Blockbuster in the past, there's a movie cover that I can picture that I think it may have been because it's a horror movie set in the desert. But I don't remember the name of it. It's
But
Sidewinders or something like that.
Sure.
Would David's mom have rented
Well,
it?
that's that's the most mysterious thing is, did you guys watch horror movies together?
No.
My family barely ever watched movies together.
I think it was definitely an exception, and my parents were definitely conscious of the fact that we were scared.
Yeah.
They were like, is this too bad for you guys? And I kept saying no, it's fun. I love it. Even though I hated it.
I can
and
see
I was
it through
literally
the
just
blanket.
hiding underneath a blanket in a chair. But no, I'm watching.
Well,
I was clearly not watching.
So if you know Mike, you know that I like horror
know Mike.
movies, and I've watched all of them.
Everyone.
All the Chuckies, all the
much.
Freddys.
So you Chuckies and Freddies out there.
But when I was a kid, I was not allowed to watch even a PG movie was not allowed. Maybe with special permission. Okay. And the first ever sleepover I went to, I was in 4th grade, my friend Damien's house. He turned out to be the Antichrist.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's amazing.
And it was just an innocent birthday party, and we had popcorn chicken, and but then it gets to the movie watching portion of the night. It's 10 at night. And they're going to watch Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. And that movie is rated PG. And so in my 4th grade mind, like that's like porn based. It's like hardcore snuff film.
Wait, it's rated PG?
Yeah. And so like I was like, but I wasn't allowed to watch PG movies.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And so I was like, wait, they go to hell in this one? This is what happens. They put on the movie. I just like made some excuse to leave the room and went and sat in a different room of the house by myself.
Oh, no.
And then like someone else came and was like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. Like it wasn't that I was scared. I was just like, I can't allow myself to view this terrifying film.
No, that's so good.
Actually, the most traumatic thing was later that night, like we slept in a tent in the backyard and some random old neighbor man who was a friend of their family's like read scary stories to tell in the dark to us. And that traumatized me for a long time.
Oh, yeah. No, those are terrifying.
Those are worse than Bill and Ted for sure.
See, that's so interesting that traumatized you because now you're so into that stuff.
Well, but I think that's part of it was like when I revisited like the horror movies like in my college years, I was like, oh, Freddy is not scary at all. Like it's literally a movie.
Oh, so it wasn't until your college years that you revisited
Well,
that
I started
stuff?
getting into film in like high school, but I didn't like, I mean, I was still living with my parents. I couldn't just watch like tons of horror movies all the time. They'd be like, what are you watching?
Yeah.
But then, yeah, in college, it's like you can just do whatever the F you want.
So I don't have as dramatic of a, my parents were, I was the oldest, but they were still like, they're so chill. They always have been like about that kind of thing. They were always just kind of like, whatever you're interested in, like whatever. But they don't particularly love horror movies. And I didn't really have a lot of friends that did either. So I don't know. I remember reading Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, loved it. And I remember distinctly like telling my friends about it. I mean, it was probably in middle school and they were like, no, like they were not into it. They were like, that looks horrifying. And I was like, oh. Okay. And I remember like renting Scream by myself when it first came out because like none of my friends wanted to watch it with me. And the fun thing about that is that I actually like inadvertently I made Jiffy Pop because we had some left over from a camping trip. I made it before watching that movie and then I watched it and that's exactly what Drew Barrymore does in that first scene wearing that amazing turtleneck sweater. So I was like, oh my God. But I loved it.
That's
like I was
fun.
like, I'm
I
so
like
terrified and I love it.
Yeah.
But probably the most definitive experience was I had this one cool friend who moved to California in middle school. She was like, you should come visit me next summer. Just like come and stay with me for like 2 weeks. And I like told my parents about it and they were like, okay. And so I did, which is crazy to me now. I was like 12, maybe. No, I was 13. I don't know, whatever. We had like nothing. It was just like 2 weeks of me hanging out in her apartment. And so we rented every Halloween movie and every day we watched a different one. And I loved it so much, but it was also really fun to have like a friend who got really into it too, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And oof, some of those movies are real bad, but
Well,
it was still super fun.
Halloween's a weird one because like that franchise has like no continuity.
Right.
And, like the third movie has
Yep.
nothing to do with Michael Myers.
Yep.
And also Paul Rudd is in the 6th one, so that's fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was when I think I was like, I love scary shit.
Yeah.
I just do. And I embraced it. And here I am now.
Nice.
Should we do our first segment?
Let's go.
Yeah, we should.
Our first segment is Would You Rather? And I'm handling it. We got some really good ones this week.
That's true.
I'm going to try really hard not to do too many. First question comes from Twitter. Someone we don't know.
platform.
Oh, wow.
Bree Ryan, who lives in Montana. That's exciting.
Great place.
She asks, would you rather be skinned alive by a 37-year-old chiropractor or bludgeoned to death by a group of 10 6-year-old children?
Are they riding horse-sized ducks?
Yeah, I was
Duck
going to say,
sized
is it 10 6-year-old children or 6 10-year-old children?
10 6-year-old children. What do you guys pick?
Well,
The kids.
skinned alive by anyone versus bludgeoned to death by anyone. I'm going Bludge.
Oh, yeah. That's
100%.
the deciding factor.
Like,
Not the age.
oh, man. No, I don't care. If it's literally my mom bludgeoning me to death or like the world's, I don't know, what would be nice? Like, what would be a good person to skin you alive? Like, being skinned alive is terrible.
Awful.
I want to be blood.
Yeah, because then you're just going to get knocked out at some
Yeah.
point. Skinned alive, you'll probably... Oof, so horrifying.
I do feel like the kids would probably do a bad job and they'd probably like leave you in the woods or something and then have to come back and finish the
That's
job.
true.
That's a good point.
So like they'd be like,
6-year-olds are not strong.
Yeah.
and
It
you'd
would
be like,
take a
this
long
really
time.
hurts.
Yeah.
It would take so long.
Yeah, it would take a
10
long
of them.
time.
Yeah.
10 6-year-olds.
They're grabbing your ankles, and like one of them's
like
grabbing you around the neck.
Clumsily hitting you slowly until you die.
Yeah.
It's like heavy pipes.
And asking like, am I helping? Like, I don't know. I just feel like kids are confused about like what
trying to help you
helping or like
sleep.
working is
They're
a
like,
lot.
Doc McStuffins.
Right, exactly. Hi, I'm Princess Sophia. And it's like,
trying
no, you're
so
not.
hard.
Like, you're killing me. Please don't. Yeah, I guess that would be scary to be Doc McStuffins. But still, stuff me. Bludge me and stuff me. I don't care.
Maybe the chiropractor is like, it's a new treatment or something. If you don't have skin, like you just are so much more free.
Oh, I love that idea. It's like, you don't need carbs. You don't need gluten. You only use 10% of your brain. It's like all these hot takes about like nutrition. Be like, we don't need our skin.
Yeah, we don't need
Get
it.
rid of it. It's holding you back. Burst free.
Yeah.
I'd love to sell you some supplements and skin removing.
Yeah. Skin removal supplements. Skin removing
trying-
essential acids that really help with joint pain and also having
My
skin.
life has totally changed. Okay.
Cured my cancer and my skin.
I can't eat
It's
salt
gone.
anymore, though. It really
I'm in
hurts.
constant pain, but
All of my organs are exposed.
I lost 10 pounds. Next question. Multiple people asked a very similar question. So I'm just going to ask them all boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Nissa Nordland says, if you were to die in a horror movie, would you rather die at the beginning as an inciting incident or meet your demise near the end?
Beginning.
Definitely beginning, because I've been watching the show Hannibal, and the people that die as inciting incidents get like really cool displays. like I want to be
Very
like,
artistic.
yeah, really just honored by my
want-
killer.
I say the end.
Yeah, you say the end.
They're also
You just
less
could stick around for
less
more.
scary. Like usually at the beginning, sometimes they don't even know they die. Like they're just chomping down on some pizza, and then it's like, oh, axe to the head. Oh,
Yep,
surprise!
and
And then
that's
the titles come out spelled in their blood. Like that's fun.
And that sounds great. I want to be that title guy.
That's fun. People will remember that too. Everyone remembers Drew Barrymore in Scream. She's just in the opening scene. Spoiler alert.
Whoa.
I put that in the wrong order, didn't I?
Carol Molitor says, would you rather be the voice of reason in a horror movie and still die first?
Oh, yeah.
Or make a series of terrible decisions and prolong the terror and die last?
Let's see.
I
Voice
say,
of reason, for sure.
oh my God, I'm opposite. I want to make bad decisions, prolong the terror and die last. Because at least maybe then I know. At least maybe then I die knowing like what is going on.
At least I tried.
Oh.
It's a serial killer. I understand. Not just like, oh, I'm just eating my pizza and then I'm gone.
And then I'm gone.
Well, to me, yeah, the voice of reason usually gets a really cool scene, and then often does get a very memorable, like Samuel Jackson in Deep Blue Sea, like he's given a big speech, and then it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like so that, and
I
that's
would
like in
love
the
to
middle,
be that.
and like so that again is usually a more memorable
Right.
scene.
Yeah. I'm approaching this question like a Myers-Briggs. I would be trying to be the voice of reason either way. I might not know what's going on, but I'd be the one that was like being safe and cautious and trying to get people to do things that are rational in that situation.
The best choice is to be like the stoner guy that just falls asleep on the couch and then
Oh, yeah.
wakes up after the credits and
If
is
you
like,
can
what
choose
just
to be
happened?
that.
Okay,
Where's
one
that
more
option?
similar one. Rowan Smith says, would you rather be the final girl/guy in a slasher situation and watch all your friends die, or be possessed and kill all your friends yourself, but you have no memory of it?
It's definitely the first one. I don't think I could live with the scars of having been possessed and killing all my friends and then having no memory of it. Like, I'd still feel responsible, you know?
Well, yeah, you'd also probably be jailed
Yeah, that's also
forever.
true. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
I mean,
like,
people have been acquitted of murder because they did it in their sleep. I bet you could make a
Yeah.
case for demonic possession.
I don't actually know. I feel like that's a harder case to make than I was asleep, because then you got to convince the court that demons are real.
Yeah.
That's tough. And today, in Salem Witch Day, hell yeah, I'm going that way all the way. It was a demon. It was that woman. Just kill the woman
So-
instead of me. Like, and that's all you need.
Oh, that's what you're gonna do.
two others that are kind of similar, but this will give a flavor for where we're all at in terms of horror movies.
Okay, good.
Marley Melch says, would you rather be tied to other humans like Human Centipede? I don't know if she's seen them, but
Yeah, I was there.
it's not tied.
Not tied up. It's more than tied up.
Let's just say connected to other humans like Human
I'll be
Centipede.
tied up in a centipede any day.
Or be terrified by ghosts like the Conjuring series. Ryan David Shrek says, would you rather be in a gory horror movie like Saw or a dreadful movie like The Ring? So I feel like it's
those
like
are pretty similar,
the two.
yeah.
So it's like, what is your preference? Gore, torture-y, gross stuff, or spooky, ghosty stuff?
Preference to be in, not not to watch, because that's different.
That's a good point, but yeah.
Honestly, probably the gory one. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, and I am really, really terrified of ghosts.
Whoa.
Like,
are you?
Well, like they're the thing that like when people are like, "Oh no, the Golden State Killer!" Like it's freaking me out. I can't sleep because I think you might come in. I'm like, I am so not afraid of actual people hurting me.
But that can actually happen,
I know.
David.
No,
Ghosts aren't real.
Believe me, this is how the conversation
Spoiler
goes
alert.
every time anybody talks about this.
Yeah.
But they're scarier to my psyche. My imagination is way more terrified of things I can't explain than the things I can explain. Does that make sense?
It does. I get it. But like to me, still the facts, the horror of it, like ghosts, hauntings, creepiness, terrifying. Could be psychologically very damaging. Human centipede situation?
Yeah, it does
or
sound pretty
literally
bad.
anything that happens in the Saw movies.
Being tied up.
I've only seen the first Saw movie once. It was on TV. So it was like edited for television. And I like halfway through, I was like, I'm out. I'm out. I cannot handle the torture-y stuff where you are like watching a human. That's why I was like, 37 hours? Oscar? What?
Yeah.
We're giving an Oscar for this?
Are you talking about 127 hours?
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's even worse.
And that's not a
There's even
horror
more
movie.
hours.
No, I know it's not a horror movie, but it might as well have been.
It wasn't that
Why are we watching a movie where a man just slowly decides that he has to saw
Because
off his
it really
arm?
happened.
I know. Ew. That sounds terrible. I don't want to know about it.
Ew.
Well, you don't have to watch it.
I know I didn't.
Emily, you're-
and also I can't watch the Saw movies. It's the torture-y stuff. It's the like emotional pain of having to do something that horrifying that I cannot be present for in any way, shape, or form.
I will say I definitely prefer like psychological horror. Like there's a lot of gory horror movies that I like. It's a part of a lot of horror movies. The super torture ones, no thanks. Saw is one of the franchises I have not watched. I watched the second one up until they fell into a pit of hypodermic needles and decided that I didn't need that in my life. If I was in it, I was thinking if it's like a slasher movie that's gory, that usually takes place over the course of like one night.
Yeah.
And like usually it does end with the killer getting killed or at least banished to hell. Or
And some people live.
the psychological horror movies usually end with the
like
ghost
months.
still chasing
Yeah.
you around.
Yeah.
And like there's no escape.
Yes.
That's a good point, but I
Yes.
don't think this is slasher.
No, that's
they
the
didn't say
thing.
slasher. They didn't just
No,
say gory.
that's true.
Because I agree with you. That wouldn't be as bad. They referenced Human Centipede and Saw. Those two movies in particular are two that I am like hard no from me. I'm
Yeah.
not on board.
Well, I've never even seen. Yeah, Human Centipede is not my jam. I have not seen that, despite having watched every other horror movie. But
It's also hard though because like I do like some of those like Home Invasion, like The Stranger and
sure.
Funny Games.
Yeah.
Like I mean I didn't like is such a weird word. I was very entertained and like thought they were really well done. But those feel different to me than just like, oh, you're chained to this thing, cut off your arm or not.
well, there's also not that gory. Like they do some really messed up stuff,
True.
but like the amount of gore, when there is gore, like it usually is pretty like intense. But like the whole movie is mostly about people like invading your home and not about invading your
Right.
butt with their mouth.
No, you're just tied to them.
It's like a really soft silk ribbon that just lightly
Yeah.
ties your face to their butt,
to their
right?
clothed butt.
What's next?
I'll tell you. Next up is a segment we call The Meat. The Meat is where we take one hypothetical question and we go a little bit deeper into how we answer it. I am the meat handler this week, and I have a question for you. Here is my question for you, Mike and Emily, and also me, and you, the listener. Your life becomes a horror movie. What kind of horror movie do you want it to be? Sub-question, how would your life be different? What sort of choices would you make day to day? What kind of job would you want to have, etc.? Go into as much detail as you like or as you think is appropriate.
I think I'm just going to take this question and run and make it into just a horror movie that I would like to have exist.
Perfect.
So if you have to live it in order for it to
Might as
exist.
well.
Like I'll take it for the team. Like so you guys can all watch it when it comes out on VHS, which is how it's going to be released.
Oh, good.
Delivered to your door at midnight, of course.
Yes.
My favorite scene in horror movies, or favorite scenes, type of scene, is, for example, in Jaws, there's a great scene where Roy Scheider is shoveling chum into the water.
Yeah.
I think it's Roy. It could be Quint. Anyway, someone's shoveling chum into the water, and the big shark like looms up behind him, and he does not see it. And it goes back into the water, and only you, the viewer, sees it.
Right.
And there's also scenes like this in It Follows, a more recent example. There's a whole scene where the evil that's coming to get them has, is in the form of another person. There's a whole scene where the camera rotates like 720 degrees, and you see what you are pretty sure is this thing that can take any form, like any random person. And the characters in the movie just do something completely unrelated to that and never see this. And you, the viewer, know that it's out there.
It's so good.
It's also in Hereditary
So
a lot.
scary.
There's like something in the corner of the screen.
Yep.
So I want a whole movie where it's like, it's a different genre of movie. Like it's just like not a biography of me, because that's very vain, but like a slice of life movie, just like a Richard Linklater joint, but like, maybe a day in my life. But throughout the day, like you start to notice like weird stuff in the background of it. Behind me in the window, like something at my neighbor's house like goes wrong, like, or there's like a news report on TV, but I'm like totally oblivious. It's like the opening of Shaun of the Dead, where he doesn't realize it's the zombie apocalypse, but it's like I don't realize I'm being stalked by a demon ghost or something like that. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's probably going to be a horror comedy because those are fun. But like,
and it sounds like there would be plenty of opportunities for scares, but also gags. If there's like a lot of irony, like a lot of dramatic irony involved, where nobody knows what's going on behind them, like that sounds pretty funny.
Yeah. So I think it would be like, I have inadvertently probably brought some ancient tome back that I just like, I don't know, like found at a thrift store. But the story, I just want a movie that like turns on a dime and like suddenly in the last act like becomes a full out horror movie.
So it's kind of like slice of life beforehand.
Yeah.
And then the stakes, like the stakes for the viewer are there.
Yeah.
But it's not until later that
or even for like the attentive viewer they are, but for a regular viewer, I would like the movie to exist such that like you wouldn't even know it was a horror movie. Like it's, well, I mean, Psycho obviously was a horror movie, but like he killed off the main protagonist partway through the movie. I mean, that happens in the novel. Yeah. But there's very few movies, I can only think of like a couple where like they actually like change really genre partway through. Yeah. And I would like that. I think that would be really cool. And obviously impossible to keep a secret.
Sure.
But I like the idea of a horror movie kind of happening in the background of a different movie and then suddenly
taking over.
That's why you need it to be VHS tapes delivered at midnight to everyone.
So at the same time.
At the same
worldwide
time.
distribution at exactly the same moment.
So,
and it has to be VHS, not
midnight,
Netflix. That's a whole other thing. Distribution we'll worry about later. And I know I said horror comedy, but I feel like it could legitimately be very scary. Like,
especially if the audience didn't see it coming.
Yeah, exactly. I want to just kind of sneak up on you just like it sneaks up on me.
The first thing that I really wanted, I know that I can't have, because it's also me saying that like it's just me controlling the circumstances a lot. So like zombie apocalypse movie where I somehow have a useful skill and just happen to be folded into like a troop of very resourceful and badass people so that I don't die immediately. Even though I know that if my life suddenly became a zombie apocalypse horror movie, I would be dead. So what I would actually pick, because I think that I could handle this life, is haunting movie, a ghost movie, where the type of movie where the ghosts just want a specific thing. Okay. That kind of one where you're like, the haunting is there. It's super creepy at first. No one is getting actually physically harmed, but it's super scary. But then ultimately you can learn what they want and then help them to finish their business. It's in quotes because I don't know exactly how to say it, but like,
well, that's the way that we sort of like colloquially say it, like the unfinished business.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or just like something is not right and they need something to change. It's not just like, oh, they are a ghost that is going to haunt this house forever. It's like, I can do something about it. And maybe then like it's the rest of my life. So maybe then I like become just like someone who can see and communicate with them. And so then even though I like solve one ghost's problems I immediately have to do the next one. This is not the plot to Ghost Whisperer.
I mean, it is. It's the same thing.
Not. I'm not Jennifer Love Hewitt. It's much better.
It's way better, Mike.
Like how is it different?
Here's how it's different.
Okay.
It's a really well-made, well-written horror movie, and not a bad TV show.
I mean, that movie isn't, or that TV show isn't like scary, is it?
Right?
Like,
no.
It depends on what you're scared of. Everyone's scared of something.
The difference is just that it's a good horror movie.
Right. It's well produced. It's cool.
Like scarier, more interesting version of the TV show The Ghost Whisperer.
Is it a business?
What?
Do you get paid?
Oh.
I don't think that's as interesting of a movie.
It's like a hobby?
Yeah, I think it's more just that, like, because I have this trait, I just keep stumbling into the situation. You know what I mean?
Like Angela Lansbury.
Yes.
Like how there's just always murders happening in their small town.
Well, and maybe it wouldn't last very long. Maybe I would. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I would die. Maybe I would just not be able to
You would be a
take
ghost and
That's
would
okay,
solve your
too.
business.
The nice thing about Ghosts is that, at least in this genre of horror movie, there is an explicit goal that you need to solve.
Right.
Like it's like a mystery too, where you're like, what is it? Like, what do you want? Like after you're being like tormented by this thing, you're like, wait, it's a ghost though. It probably wants something. What does it want? And there's a puzzle for you to solve.
Yes,
which is nice.
it's like
rather,
a mystery
it's
as
cool.
well.
Uh-huh.
So you can like also, like I love those ones where it's like everybody thinks that the person was killed this way, and then the person who's being haunted has to solve it. I'm like, oh,
it's pretty fun. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Ghost Whisperer.
It's kind of like that show.
But in a good way.
I never
it's fine.
actually
You didn't say
watched it.
And also,
It was
it's
on for a
fine.
long time. It was
I
also-
didn't say the question isn't what would your life be like completely distinct from any other intellectual property. Like,
And there was also Medium with Patricia Arquette. Let's not forget her.
oh, all right.
Was that better? I didn't watch
No,
that
they were
either.
just like competing ghost
Yeah,
lady
they
shows.
were similar.
I have no idea. I know nothing about them.
Patricia
feel
Arquette's a
like
better
Patricia
actor.
Arquette's had to have been better, but
She's
I don't
better.
know. David, what's your movie?
My movie. This movie is actually very similar to Emily's premise because I love the ghost with unfinished business trope in horror movies. So I definitely want to insert myself into a movie like that because there's a mystery to be solved. It's a puzzle. I feel like it's goal oriented and eventually I can help with something and maybe I won't die. Often people that are haunted don't actually die. Just bad shit keeps happening to them because the ghost isn't trying to kill you. It's trying to annoy you to the point where you realize what it wants, and maybe sometimes it's bad at communicating what it wants because sometimes they're like little kids and they don't know what they're doing. This one is not a little kid. This one is in love with me. And I don't know. I still haven't decided if I think that it'd be because like I kind of want it to be a sort of like third act twist where it's like 13 going on 950 and like I'm trying to like have a relationship with this ghost that's like from a different time but is like obsessed with me for some reason and I like actually fall in love with a ghost. Like the movie Ghost. But not with pottery in it this time. Instead, just with like two people hanging out in a house. One's dead, the other's not. Like Twilight a little bit, maybe. I think that could be really fun, especially it's kind of the inversion of what Mike is talking about, where there's a movie that's like it's slice of life, people just hanging out, and then whoa, it's a horror movie. Like this one starts as a horror movie, and by the end of it is just like
an indie rom-com.
a weird like a mumblecore rom-com where I'm just like chilling with a ghost eating Netflix.
Yeah,
And it would be called Boo. That's what it would be called.
Oh, that's so cute.
That's what I want. That's all.
Okay. Sure.
Do you have questions?
I just feel like there's like no way that ghost isn't like the most manic pixie dream girl ever.
Yeah.
Like it's like
Manic
what's her
Pixie
face
Dead Girl.
from The Big Sick? What's that actress's name?
Juno Temple,
No.
Molly Ringwald,
Yeah,
Ellie,
Temple Grandin,
Ellie Golding.
Courtney Cox,
Ellen Page.
Celia.
Courtney Cox.
Alien Gonzalez,
Haley Joel Osment.
No, she has big eyes.
Oh, big eyes.
Christina
I know who
Ricci,
you're talking about, but I don't know her name.
Kazan?
Zoe Kazan.
Right, great. Okay.
got
It's
there.
her. And she's like,
Okay.
I'm dead.
Yeah, I'm just dead.
Like, I don't even know, but she's like so cute and big eyes and
Yeah, how do you meet her? Like, do you think she's a real person to begin with?
No, I think
you get
because the
haunted.
first couple of acts are like hauntings, and I think it's somebody that's just very awkward about expressing their affection.
Okay.
Like they slam doors and stuff because they don't know how else to get my attention, and they've written like "I love you, David," or like not that because that's a little weird, but like I saw what you did for that nice person, and it really warmed my heart. But all I see is like it like here they wrote it on the mirror like so I could see it, but it like ran, and so it just looks like a bunch of blood on the mirror, and I'm like, no, I
know.
keep misinterpreting the things that they're trying to tell me as like horrifying things, but they're actually trying to tell me how nice they think I am and how they just want to
you guys just want ghosts to validate you.
I
see
think
how it
so.
is.
Yeah.
oh, real talk.
I didn't mean that to be an insult.
Yeah,
That's
no,
fine.
it's true. It's just, I just feel like
don't mean
that's
it to
like
be mean.
very like suddenly I feel very seen.
Unlike a ghost would.
We are going to do a more traditional choose your own adventure segment than we usually do with Would You Blanket. I have in my possession a series of dices. Dice.
I believe it's Dees.
I got them actually when I was teaching a horror and mystery writing class, which was great fun. And each die has a different element of the story in it. We have a hero's dice, settings, tools, monsters, obstacles, twists, and endings. And we're going to have Emily play a protagonist in a horror tale that we will create using these dice.
What are they called again?
Dice.
Just in case people want to. No, I mean, like, what is this game called?
This is Scary Tales dice. I'm a big fan of storytelling dice. It's a good way to introduce a random element that can inspire creativity. There's all kinds of them now. And when I saw there were glow-in-the-dark horror ones, I bought them without even really thinking I'd be able to use them for school. I happened to, but... So I think we'll start off, Emily, in classic role-playing fashion. Why don't you roll for your character?
I'm doing it.
Oh, looks like you are a doctor, I think.
Great.
Is that a doctor with the classic metal circle on your head?
Yeah, like the doctors wear now.
Yeah, like all the doctors are wearing.
The head
All right,
lamp.
so you're a doctor, and the place that you're going to be encountering this horror is... She's rolling the settings die. It is a circus.
Oh, no.
I think.
That's a circus?
No, it's an asylum. Oh, it is. I thought it was a circus tent.
Very
there is a
fitting.
carnival.
Very
no, this is an
fitting.
asylum. Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay, so
Emily,
now, why don't you tell us a little bit about your character?
Yeah.
Dr. Sullivan.
Sullivan.
She's fresh out of med school, bright, optimistic, and she really wanted to get a job at the hospital in the town that she grew up in, but she couldn't, and so she got a job at this creepy asylum out in the forest. What could go wrong?
Entry level work. It's tough.
I think the last essential element of our tale, which we'll establish at this moment, is what exactly is going to go wrong.
Here we go. I'm rolling it.
There's the monster die.
Rolling that monster die.
Die, monster die. It's a zombie.
Yes!
Oh,
Zombie
okay.
at the asylum. All right.
Classic.
You are Dr. Sullivan taking this job at the asylum, despite it not being her first choice of a job. It's your first day on the job, and you go to work, and you start to notice that it seems like patients are even more non-responsive than you're used to. It doesn't seem like anyone's really able to speak much to you. The rest of the staff is not very friendly either, except for another doctor who's starting at the same time as you, Dr. Baxter. She has just gotten her PhD. Wait, do doctors?
Yes, they have.
Medical doctors get PhDs?
Actually, I don't know. I think it might
no,
be.
they get. Oops. She has her PhD in
Maybe
anthropology.
she does have a PhD.
Actually, wait.
too.
No,
Yeah,
that's what it is.
yeah. Okay.
She's an anthropology student from local university.
So she's not a medical doctor.
Yeah, but she's doing. She's doing her thesis about the way the asylum's being run.
Oh no!
And she also is new to the asylum, and she says, "Hey, like, it's good to see someone new here. Like, I've been studying here for the last couple weeks, and I think there's something weird going on, particularly in the basement, because that's where the weird stuff happens." But you're like, okay, all right. Well, I just kind of want to like get my name badge and figure out what my job's going to be like. So you're on break, your lunch break, and you notice a peculiar liquid leaking out of the fridge in the break room. But then you also hear a voice down the hallway saying, "Hey, come over here." So do you choose to go to investigate the fridge liquid or the voice from the hallway?
Hey, come over here.
Yeah, there it is.
If Dr. Sullivan is anything like me, which I think we have to assume she is, except for the fact that she, like is a doctor and wants to help people. I mean, I want to help people too. Never mind. I'm not generally prone to cleaning up mysterious messes. And I think as a doctor, I would be like, oh, I want to help whoever is asking for my help. So I'm going to follow that voice.
I'm going to roll the tools die. I just want some prompt. What's that?
Medicine.
Oh, perfect. So you walk into this other room, and there's as you expected, it's room 116. There's a patient bed. There's an orderly that's standing over one of the patients. And the orderly sound really bad, like they're sick or something, because they're like,
Hey, can you hold this? Can you hold this IV in this person while I quick go hawk up this nasty loogie that I got just chilling in my throat? It's
My God.
I've been sitting on this puppy for like 2 hours.
Oh, God.
this gross person wants you to just hold an IV in a hole in the person while they run and quick go spit so that they can come back and resume. And as you hold it in, you realize that you're not sure what this liquid is that they're pumping into this person. You're you check the bag and it doesn't have a usual label. It doesn't say what kind of fluid it is, which is, very uncommon for medical environment. Usually those things are pretty well labeled, and it's kind of like a yellowish color. It's not pee. Don't worry. For sure. Pee when you see pee. It's not pee. The orderly comes back and says, "Oh, thank you so much for taking care of this patient. As I said, I had a nasty loogie just chilling in my throat, but I feel so much better now. Thank you for helping me, doctor. I don't need your help anymore. Goodbye." Do you confront this person about what this liquid is, or do you let the secret lie?
Yeah, no, I think I'm like, what is this medicine that you're giving them? I've never seen anything like this. And I would like to know what medicine you're administering, as I'm a doctor and you're not.
Lording over them. Yeah, that's good.
Your demands to know what's going on are suddenly met with, it's a mirror.
With yourself.
The orderly just mumbles something when you confront them and wanders out of the room. But you notice that there's a giant mirror on one wall of the patient's bedroom. And in fact, it seems like it's big enough that it looks like it's, are they one-way or two-way mirrors? There's always called two-way, but they're not two-way. They're one-way.
I think it's a two-way because a mirror is one
the
way.
one way that it works
and the other way is the window.
And the see-through way is two things.
It's more like an alternate way mirror.
Multi-purpose mirror.
Multi-way mirror.
Double-use mirror.
Piece of glass that does two things.
Anyway, it's one of those.
The one that you can see through the other side of.
Yeah.
Okay,
and you kind of go up, you look up real close to it, and you kind of shine your little medical flashlight into it, which you also have, and you can kind of think there's something going on the other side. So you run out into the hall, and you see there's a locked door where that mirror, the other side of that mirror would be. And you pound on the door. You can't get in. You can't get into the room. So you decide, okay, well, that was super weird. I need to probably figure out what's going on here before I continue. Your options now are to try to get a hold of the authorities, or maybe check out that basement where the bad stuff's happening and see if you can figure out what's going on your own.
For the sake of the story, and assuming that this character I'm playing, Dr. Sullivan, is braver than me,
let's assume.
Let's just go for the basement,
Oh,
especially
wow.
if it seems like there's not a lot of helpful people around. If the anthropology doctor was the only other person that seemed like they had a personality, I think I'm just gonna try to get to the bottom of this.
Okay.
Literally.
The bottom. Wink.
No, not like a butt thing, but it's fine.
I didn't mean it like that.
So the person that runs this hospital, Dr. Greenbrier, is an old white man, and always a little smelly. Not like in a terrible way, but in the way that like old clinical people sort of just smell.
Sure.
I don't think he really cares to scent himself in any particular way. So he just kind of smells like a hospital all the time. He's real wrinkly. He stops you. He grabs you by the arm, as men often do.
No. You don't touch me, sir.
And then like as he's talking to you, probably like touches the small of your back because he's that guy. And says like, I don't think you need to be worried about what's going on in the basement right now. There are lots of patients up here that need your help. Why don't you let me tend to the downstairs and you can tend to the upstairs, sweetheart? Your choices are, do you kill Dr. Gruber? No. Here, I know. This is where I'm going to put the obstacle. Oh, fire! Perfect. Okay. 1, you can go about your business and choose to instead to call the police, because that's an option that you still have, not being able to go in the basement. Or you could pull the fire alarm to distract Dr. Greenbrier and sneak downstairs to find out what's going on while nobody was in the hospital.
I'm definitely doing that because obviously the police aren't going to help at this point. So pulling that fire alarm, going downstairs.
Awesome.
The fire alarm appears to have been built about 70 years ago and is just like a foghorn sounding noise coming from the courtyard of the asylum. It's like a ship pulling into the asylum. All of the lights turn off and there's just everything is illuminated by these revolving orange lights in the hallway. But you carry onward and downward. The elevators are now inactive due to the fire alarm having been activated. And so you go down the long and steep concrete staircase into the basement. However, on your trip down to the staircase, you happen to find a shovel.
Perfect.
Which comes in handy when you get to the bottom of the basement door and there is a large chain locking the door. Fortunately, you're able to smash it with the shovel and you go inside the basement room, which is important somehow. As you go into the room, you see a secret elevator door opens on the other side of this cavernous, almost warehouse-sized chamber that you've opened the door onto. The secret elevator, which is still working, is operated by the creepy orderly from earlier.
Oh, no.
He comes shuffling out of the elevator, and he's holding a bucket. He goes across the room and there's a spigot sticking out of the wall.
Oh, no.
And he turns on the spigot and some of that yellow liquid comes out of the spigot and goes into the bucket. I guess your choices now are to see what happens next or confront him.
Confront him. What are you doing? What is that stuff? Are you making people zombies? Ew.
I do love that you included the classic choose your own adventure option. See what happens
Yeah,
next.
it happens a lot.
Do
in the
nothing and
books.
stand there. Yeah, it's often an option, which is really strange to me in a book about action.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Ew, are you making people into zombies?
Yeah.
Says Dr.
Sullivan.
What's that?
Secret passage.
Oh my God. Okay, well, there already was one. So there's another secret elevator in this basement, and it opens right behind you. And you hear a voice coming out of that sounds otherworldly and like 2 or 3 voices speaking at once. And one of them sounds familiar, but you can't quite place it. And it says,
No, he's not turning anyone into zombies. I am.
and you turn around and it's Dr. Baxter. But her eyes are glowing white and her hair is purple and flying around, and she's backlit really cool in like a really cool way because she's powerful and maybe like a lich or something. We're not sure. But what you do know is that she's floating a little bit above the ground, and her robes, which she has robes now, are flailing around, propelled by some unseen otherworldly wind. And she points at you and says,
And you found out my secret, and you must pay.
your options are run or pay. No, I would say your options actually are run or fight.
Well, I'm not going to like physically fight her, but I am going to be like, listen, lady, you're the one that even told me about the basement in the first place. What did you want if you didn't want me to come down here and figure out your weird zombie factory? But I'm not gonna run.
Yeah.
I already did all this. I'm gonna stay and try to see this out. Maybe try to talk some sense into her or figure out what her deal is.
Yeah,
Stan.
confront.
Her hair stands down a little bit from her head. It's not flying around like crazy static electricity hair anymore. And she says, no, I really need you to pay. I'm losing my funding and I need money. See, my experiment here is to keep these people
Yes.
alive. In fact, all of these inmates were part of the asylum 75 years ago. There was a terrible accident and almost all of the inmates died, and some of them turned into ravenous zombies. The medicine that I'm giving them, which I admit looks gross, is actually keeping them from becoming the monsters that they were. I'm keeping them here in the asylum along with my friend Ned, the orderly, who I admit is kind of a creep. And I'm trying to study the effects of this strange substance on the human body. But I promise they're already dead anyway, so it's no big deal. My university is very suspicious of the fact that I've been alive for 100 years because I guess I take some of the serum myself and I'm fine.
I guess I do.
Also makes you float. And it makes your
Yeah,
hair fly
she's getting
around.
pretty
And you have
powerful.
gold, like searing white eyes.
Look, I get
Yeah,
bored.
dog.
I've been alive for 130
Okay.
years.
Okay.
So as she speaks, you're starting to just become more and more confused by these strange twists. Our tale needs an ending, however, so I'll roll the ending die. Oh, you're a hero. So
Do I write a really good grant application?
I'm going to let you decide, actually.
Yeah,
I'm going to say,
yeah.
I'm not even going to give you two choices. Like, you know the situation now, at least as she portrays it.
Sure.
How do you think you could be a hero in
Well,
this situation?
I'm a big fan of women in medicine, and I think that she is like kind of the only person that I've connected with so far. Weird things are happening, and she seems weird, but I guess she's the only one I can believe at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and believe her. If she's that old, she's dealt with some shit from the patriarchy for sure. So I say, you know what? I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you write some grants to get more funding. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Maybe I'm also going to help you focus your research a little more, because right now you seem a little aimless with it, to be honest.
Constructive criticism. Seems like
Right.
you're really shooting at a lot of dartboards.
Maybe no more pails full of medicine.
Yeah, and like
Some
stop
standards.
floating and having so many secret passageways. That's confusing and weird. Let's do this, girl. You and me.
Yay.
Business partners. What's your nonprofit called?
It's called Ladies Plus Zombies equals
It's an equation.
Equals. Wait, equals.
a heart.
Aww.
Just a heart emoji.
So positive.
Oh, I was thinking of Doctors Without Borders. Maybe that's it. Doctors Without Borders isn't like Doctors Without Borders equals great.
Yeah, doctors minus borders equals heart. Like it's not like an equation.
That's their full name. Our next little segment we have is called If I Were You, where we just talk about stuff we would do if we were you. Things that we like, things that we think you might like. I'll go ahead and say what I think you should do, which is to go either to a theater near you or to Amazon Prime and rent the movie Mandy. It stars Nicolas Cage. And here's the thing. I would not call it a Nicolas Cage movie. This movie is way crazier than Nicolas Cage. I'll also say this. It is not a movie for everyone. It is a movie for me. I liked it a lot, but it is very strange. It starts off weird, and then by the end, it's just, you don't even have any idea what's going to happen.
Is it a horror movie?
It is kind of a horror movie.
Okay.
It definitely has horrific elements. There's a demon biker gang who are just like part of it. But then there's a cult that kidnaps Nicolas Cage's wife. It's a very gory movie in that he seeks vengeance against them. But there's supernatural elements because they have these unexplained mystical artifacts where they summon demon bikers, or sometimes they have demon four-wheelers. It's also funny in a very strange way if you're a strange person like me. Anyway, Nicolas Cage freaking out in the movie is like the most normal thing in the movie. So get on board. There's a character who I told David I think he's going to want to be for Halloween. So write in if you think you know who that character is. They're on a TV in the movie for a brief couple seconds. And I think if you've seen the movie, you know who it is.
Oh my God.
Anyway, go see Mandy if you're into that.
If I were you, I would watch the movie The Devil's Backbone. It's a Guillermo joint. It's an early one. And I think what I like about it so much is that it's kind of a classic ghost story in the sense that there's this presence at this orphanage that people are like, what does it want? Does it want revenge? Does it want gold? Like, why? And there are all these competing agendas in this very isolated place. I think it would probably qualify as a chamber piece because it's such an isolated little orphanage in the middle of this sort of desert. The sense of place in that movie is great. And I like the mood that it sets. It's spooky. It's a little violent. It's a really cool ghost story that I think you all should enjoy. Okay, bye.
Cool. Mine's a little weird. And also also unspecific, I think. If I were you, I would go on Spotify or however you listen to music and listen to some horror movie soundtracks. Specifically, like maybe first like look up like what are some good ones, or just maybe try to listen to a movie that you know you liked even if you don't really remember the music. I think that it's a element of horror movies that, I mean, sure, some people will be like, oh, you know, like the theme from Halloween, you know what I mean? Like people talk about them and they're like, oh, this sound is the sound that, you know, came about in this horror movie. But I think there's some really, really beautiful stuff. And I also am just so obsessed with the It Follows music still.
That's the one. When you said that, I thought of that one.
Because that's where I think I realized that like I could just listen to that sometimes. Not all the time. I like to listen to stuff that I can sing along to mostly. But like
you don't sing along to the It Follows.
No, I don't. But it's a cool mood setter if you it's kind of like in the fall when I would listen to like classical music or like instrumental. Try a horror movie soundtrack instead. See what it does for you.
I don't want to jump on your thing.
I like it.
But yeah, It Follows. And the one is heavy rotation in my car is the Donnie Darko score.
Oh,
like
yes.
The music. It's not even really, that's not even a horror movie really, but
it's a
the
beautiful
score is
score.
very atmospheric and kind of creepy. It's good.
It's like a way to take your mellow time and just like make it a little spooky.
A little spooky.
If you would like to find us on the internet, reminder, we're the Hypotheticast. That's what you're listening to. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter. In both of those places, we ask lots of questions that we would love your answers. We're also on Instagram. You could email us at hypotheticast@gmail.com, or you could check out our website, which is hypotheticast.club. There you can listen to our episodes or reach out, say hi, give us some ideas for questions and themes. We love to hear from you.
We would also love your feedback on iTunes or whatever podcast app you use. You give us a rating and write us a review. We recently got a review from Lemon God, 5 out of 5 stars. I wear this mask to sing lullabies to my children. They're terrified of the mask. Whenever they protest about their bedtime or ask for too many sweets, I whip on the mask and they soon know who is King Penguin. Okay, actually, that's a review I got of a penguin mask on Amazon because there are no new reviews this week.
My God.
So please review so I don't have to read weird reviews like that anymore. Tell your friends about us. That'd be great.
Thanks to Christian Hagen for designing our logo. Thank you to Jane James and the Hunger for our theme song, Killin' It. It's from their album, Raw. Thank you to whoever sent us a garbage bag, but put it in our neighbor's doorway.
Yep.
So the other day, we received a package for the Hypotheticast.
I got a DM on Instagram.
Yeah, it was such a strange series of
from
events.
someone just sitting on my couch, got a DM. Was like, oh, of course, who's messaging me now?
Slide into your DMs.
But it was to our Hypotheticast Instagram account, and it was this woman who was like, I just got a package dropped off on my doorstep that just says Hypotheticast. So I Googled it and I found this Instagram and I was like, oh, where do you live? She's like, I live in Minneapolis. And I was like, okay, well, turns out it's the address right next to Mike and David's place. So then I reached out to them and said, go to your neighbor's house.
It's such a strange message to get.
Both of you were like, it's a trap.
Well,
no, don't
like,
go. And I was
like,
no, please. I just want to stop messaging with this stranger on Instagram.
But it is weird to get a message from Emily that says, go to your neighbor's house and get a package.
I know. It's like I got a message on Instagram. It's like, why didn't they just come over?
It was such a weird situation. But we eventually did get the package. It was very nice. There's a lot of cool stuff in there.
Mainly Cheetos.
And a bag of gummy eyeballs, which were in a Ziploc baggie, and I swear they were moist and maybe...
Mike is convinced
I was convinced that they were dosed with something. So when I ate one, I felt kind of tingly.
Anyway, the point is, it came with a weird little smudgy note.
It says Hypotheticast to fuel the magic, referencing the Cheetos and gummy eyeballs. Eat up and be magical. XOXO, your creepiest fan.
Basically, here's the deal. We would really like to know who sent us these Cheetos. They were delicious. But then also, we have a challenge for you.
Yeah.
Can you be creepier than our self-professed creepiest fan?
Yeah. We're not going to say what that means. You decide. Be creepy to us. Not in an illegal way, or at least not majorly illegal.
Do you feel personally attacked by someone claiming to be our creepiest fan? Prove them wrong.
Right.
Get them.
Get 'em.
It's October now.
Don't fight amongst each other.
Fight them. It is an October-long challenge. Creepiest fan of the Hypotheticast? The crown will be given on Halloween.
Yeah.
In a secret ceremony at midnight. Last segment is no questions asked. It is where I give you a question and you guys have to answer it, and you can't ask any questions.
That's right.
Here we go. This comes from John Bliss. Would you rather be forced to watch the terrible movie Would You Rather on repeat from now until November 1st, or have someone else stab you in the leg once?
Stab.
Stab.
Movie.
Oh, thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you for listening.
You made it to October, and you know what that means. Lightning sound, lightning sound, lightning sound.
Chain rattle, chain rattle.
Dead body, dead body, dead body.
Halloween candy.
Choo, choo, choo. It's a train. It's a spooky train.
It's the
Watch
Halloween
out.
train. It's
Halloween
coming to
train is
Halloween.
here.
So much better than the Polar Express.
I'm marching, marching, 'cause I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
I paid $75 for that auditory experience that you two just gave me. So if you guys would also like your own personalized Halloween
A soundscape for your ears. You'll be transported.
it's definitely worth the money.
Options are haunted mansion, haunted submarine, or a Denny's.
What?
Not haunted, an unhaunted Denny's.
Oh, God damn it. You
Play rattle, play
playing
rattle.
with my heart. I thought you said haunted daddies.
David will do that one for just you.
Welcome to Haunted Daddies. May I take your order? Did you say Denny's? Sure.